Welcome back to Professor Hartman. Today we are talking about edutainment and what happened to it. So, in the 90s and early 2000s, edutainment referred to educational software for kids, and it was a booming software market. The creators wanted to make fun software for children to learn to read, math, history, all kinds of cool stuff. And there were some great franchises. You had, Carmen San Diego, Reader Rabbit, Jumpstart, all kinds of stuff like this that taught so many different subjects. And then in the 2000s, when the internet started to take off, you got things like Webkins and Club Penguin. And while Club Penguin and Webkins weren't, educational software per se, they definitely had some edutainment elements to them. So, it peaked around 2000 at just around $500 million. 4 years later, it's down to 152 million. And then soon after that, it really kind of petered out and became nothing. And what's weird is now, if you Google edutainment or you look up edutainment software, it is considered something more like adult education software or job training or vocational training or things like that. So what happened? What happened to it? Well, sad to say, this is what happened to it. Kevin O'Leary, a businessman, corporate raider, call him what you will, famous for being on Shark Tank lately, he came along, and that's the problem. So there was a company, one of the biggest players in edutainment was this company called the Learning Company. Two of its founders were Warren Robinett, who made the game Adventure for Atari, one of the first, really cool original games for the console. And Terry Pearl, who is just a titan in mathematics education for women and minorities. Those were two of the founders. And they came along and they made a ton of great games. They made Carmen San Diego, Oregon Trail, the Reader Rabbit franchise. By the mid 90s, they were up to 53 million in revenue, which was huge at the time. And meanwhile, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Genius, was making office productivity software. An absolute dead end, terrible, brain dead idea. This is the decade where Microsoft was destroying anyone who tried to make office productivity software. So his company SoftKey was dying, floundering, garbage, horrible company. And he decided, what if I started buying up these edutainment companies that are, kind of have a lot of high value and they care more about the quality of their product than just pure profits. So that's what he did. And in 1995, SoftKey outbid Broderbund to acquire TLC for $650 million. And he immediately renamed his company to the Learning Company because he knew SoftKey's name was garbage. Immediately renamed it. And there were so many red flags already that a 1996 report from a forensic accounting firm insisted that the board let the purchase happen only through cash rather than stock. They didn't even trust him to give stock. By 3 years later, he had bought more than 20 companies and becoming the second largest consumer software company right behind Microsoft. As people said at the time, O'Leary saw software companies as commodities. He was the soulless business person who just came in and bought a bunch of companies, scaled them back, and laid off all the good people. What a gem. But it worked. Soon after that, he sold TLC to Mattel for $3.5 billion, despite the fact that there were tons of red flags, sketchy accounting firms that had been fired because they wouldn't cook the books the way he wanted it to be. He was not investing in research and development. Their games were getting old. And my favorite, there were even allegations that TLC was shipping out inventory to stores who had secretly agreed not to return unsold merchandise, boosting the appearance of sales. This was such a bad deal that Mattel paid $3.5 billion with a B, and a year and a half later had to sell it off for $27 million. And in the meantime, the edutainment software industry was destroyed, gutted. All the talented teams scattered to the winds, all the IPs owned and by companies mired in legal battles and bankruptcies and all kinds of stuff. So nobody could even resurrect these franchises that had reputations. And that was it. And Mr. Wonderful walks away with billions and calls himself a genius when all he did was destroy an entire industry, creating wonderful products for children and families. So what now? The edutainment industry, like I said, is almost not even talked about as a child software industry. It's talked about more for vocational job training. And what has filled the void? I mean, as far as I can see, it's just Roblox and Minecraft that have filled the void. And what a void they have filled. I mean, my Roblox, $3.6 billion in revenue last year. Minecraft, another $220 million. You've got a $4 billion chunk of the industry in two games where they kind of fulfill that pseudo educational gaming niche. But who knows how big that industry could be if someone actually made stuff for it again. I would love to see a software or video game company take a risk and start to make some actual quality edutainment. I mean, with all the things we have now, all the computer tech, all the broadband, so many things we've learned about pedagogy and learning and online learning and remote learning, who knows what could be possible. But until someone gives it a shot, we will never know. And the reason it was all destroyed and ruined and taken from us, Mr. Wonderful and his typical corporate greed.